Hi, I'm Mel Brown with Salute to Yankovic.
Welcome to the Polka Country Music Network as Mel Brown salutes America's Polka King Frank Yankovic. Brought to you by Pat's Pizza Corner. Anytime you want fresh pizza delivered to your home piping hot, call Pat's Pizza Corner. Also brought to you in part by Dermadrug, that new pimple cream that makes you uptight, out of sight, and blemish-free. Electroclip, the amazing hair-cutting device. Unisex Stereo, for the absolute best buy in stereo, see Unisex. Dago Menswear, if you dress to kill, then go where they go. The Ron Pentecost School of Radio Announcing. Yes, folks, you too can learn how to talk like me. At SGM Pictures and Records. We'll be back with the start of Mel Brown's Salute to Frank Yankovic right after this. The Polka Country Music Network would like to pay special tribute to an individual who is in a world all of his own. Mel Brown. Mel is no newcomer to the polka music industry. He has put in 10 years of hard work. Mel tells how he got his first break to go on stage.
Through with Bill Savatsky off and on, off the stage. And with the process of when he was working with Jeff Menard, and with his process of his business out here to Harbor, Illinois, and his Harbor Smooth Club. I got up on the stage there and I worked in the back there, and I mean, not worked in the back, I worked with as musicians as with Bill Savatsky. Okay, now go ahead.
Mel Brown made his stage debut on piano, but he actually started on the accordion and then the drums before becoming an accomplished pianist. The amazing thing to note is that Mel started his musical training at the age of 30. So relative to what we say, Mel feels he is a newcomer to the entertainment field.
Oh, yeah, very much so, yeah.
Not only is Mel Brown versatile as a musician, but he is an accomplished vocalist as well, with a voice and lyrics that are in great demand. Whether he's singing with local bands like Bill Savatsky, Jeff Menard, Grant Lazara, or the nation's Polka King, there are always requests from the audience for Mel to do one of the many songs he has written the lyrics for. Mel explains how his singing career got started.
With Jeff and Bill Savatsky, when they were working together at the time when Jeff was working at the time it was in Rome, Wisconsin. You know where that is? Off Highway 135 here. This side of Lexonia, Wisconsin. That's where he got up on the stage. He asked me to sing these different numbers and when Dave was on the bass from Racine County, that's how I got the process of starting of this whole idea of a whole system, as to my knowledge.
We'll return with more on the Mel Brown story right after these on the Polka Country Music Network. With the exception of the road trip to Harvard, Illinois, which incidentally Mel credits much of his success to, he stays pretty close to home.
Well, I got my big company job, and that's why I didn't process and make a big issue of it, going further ahead with it.
And with a company job such as the one that Mel Brown has, it's quite obvious why he's made music a hobby.
Well, I'm something everything. I'm just more or less a maintenance worker. Yeah, and 51st Lincoln, the oil gear company, the office with the shop working. We make process the same thing as what Racine Hydraulics is with hydraulics, and there's a lot of good people in there.
Mel Brown says he's dedicated to only one style of music, that being polka music, and doesn't see himself branching off into rock or country or even jazz.
No way whatsoever. I had more of a process of interest in old time music with like Yankovic style here.
Mel has an interesting story on how he got turned on to polka music.
Well, I'll tell you why. I bought the Frank Yankovic accordion when I did. That was when I bought it. That was 12 years ago. Anyway, that made me interest more or less, and I was listening. I was around Vern Meister and all these celebrities as who they are, or Bill Savatsky, Jeff Menard. Then I met Joey Mitsko.
And Mel has an interesting story on how he got to meet Joey Miskell.
Oh, that I couldn't tell you right to the T, but that must have been when Vern Meister was working at Melody Bar, when Dick Marion had the Melody Bar when he owned it. That's when I met Joey Mitsko coming there at Melody Bar there. When Vern Meister was working there, that must have been, that must have been in 1972 or so. Or 1970 when he had the Melody Bar yet.
And it was through all of this that he became associated with America's Polka King, Frank Yankovic. Mel has yet another interesting story to share with us on how he became acquainted with Frank.
Well, I knew him as what the time was when I was smaller, when he started coming at the Muskego Beach just like Bill Savatsky. And I was around with Bill Savatsky, and he was there. And I met him before, to my knowledge, before I met Bill Savatsky at Milwaukee, Wisconsin here. And mainly speaking, that's what brought me interest in more or less in this polka field business itself.
After becoming acquainted with Frank Yankovic, it wasn't long before America's Polka King invited Mel Brown up on the stage with him.
Oh, when we were at, to be honest, like to my knowledge, when we were at the Watertown Turner Hall. Or was it? No, wait, it wasn't that. Wait, no, excuse me, I was out at the Turner Hall yet. When Jeff filled in and worked with them. What the heck, I can't place that, but to my knowledge it was, oh heck, I forget what nightclub is because I'm confused right now, and to be honest. But I was up on Turner Hall that time, and told me to come up there too, but I didn't do really professional singing as over the microphone at Turner Hall in Watertown. But it was in some other nightclub. I can't think of it right now. To my knowledge, Jeff could give you more process of reference on the whole idea. When the first time was, because he has more knowledge on it than I am. Okay?
Don't go away. There's more to come on the Polka Country Music Network, including Alan Arthur's latest Polka Country forecast, right here on the Polka Country Music Network. From young on, Mel Brown always had visions of going to a recording studio someday, laying down some tracks, and eventually releasing his very own album. But somehow the timing just never seemed right, until one October evening in 1983.
That come about when it was this last October, when we were working at the shopping center here on Oktoberfest, right here, Point Loomis. He says, you want to cut? Yeah. So he got me up there, and I sang a few numbers. And I started doing this thing. He says, how about cutting an album? This process of our idea of the way you want to process and work some of these, and do some of these as music field itself, in the polka field. So I did. So that's how I went and processed and went ahead with this whole system.
So finally, the timing seemed right, the ball was rolling. After handpicking his studio musicians and carefully choosing a recording studio that could deliver the sound he was striving for, Mel Brown finally produced and released his salute to Frank Yankovic. But it wasn't all that cut and dried. Countless hours were put into this project. Nothing but the best was Mel's attitude throughout the whole session. Mel tells how many hours he alone put into his vocal part for No Beer Today before he was ready to release it on the album.
Oh, goddamn, it's been at least 16 hours. Oh, yeah, it was a lot of work on these different processes back and forth. I was there, and the other ones there, and we were doing our process of business doing it, of music itself, yeah.
Mel Brown says he's gained a wealth of knowledge by producing such an LP.
To my process of my knowledge of way of thinking, as I'm resenting to salute to Frank Yankovic and of Mel Brown, to salute to Frank Yankovic, I figure it might be just average business to my way of doing process of music itself. I learn more as I go along. I'm doing more of this here, and I memorize all these things of these numbers, and it more or less, it isn't that difficult for me.
Mel also tells how he arrived with the title for his premiere LP.
Well, to my knowledge, to my way of what the music field itself, is Frank Yankovic put music to the music field itself of polka music. Not only polka, he's not only a polka man, he can play modern and play process of a variety of music, right? And he's very musically intelligent as a musician, right? Very intelligent as a musician, right? To my knowledge, I bought a accordion from him, like I told you, that's 12 years ago, and I figured I'm going to put that in his process of his redoing of remembrance of that accordion as I bought that I'm going to put something and do something and take a chance and put the show on the road if I can do something.
Through all of this, one has to wonder if maybe the two, Frank Yankovic and Mel Brown, might not be teaming up and touring together.
it depends on him. What if he has if I'm capable of as a musician, what he wants to use. That's his process and his privilege of business.
We'll return with more of Mel Brown's salute to Frank Yankovic on the Polka Music Country Network right after these.
My old sweetheart, and when we're wed, then I can say, no more over 3 hills I'll stray.
In terms of record sales, according to Mel Brown, the album is selling like hotcakes, but he feels it's a little too early to predict if the record will go gold.
Well, I figure it's maybe going to sell quite a few, but not maybe to that process of that point of amount as you're referring to as a gold record.
Now, going bronze or platinum, well, that's more in line to Mel Brown's way of thinking.
Well, it could, to mainly the process of it could be misfortune, whatever it does. To my knowledge, we're just taking a chance.
So based on the record industry trade magazine reports and what Mel tells us, the album is off to a pretty good start.
Real good. Up on the ups. Nope. I sold 7 in here right now again.
Mel Brown is somewhat astonished at the caliber of people buying his album. It not only appeals to the average polka enthusiast, but to a higher class of people as well.
And even the vice president of the company, his son bought one from me. Hey, there's no going. There was more of them than the office gals in the office bought from me.
But things weren't all roses for Mel Brown. He apparently had some problems in getting the album released.
To my knowledge, to my way of telling you right now is to tell you honest the truth. This whole system of this music itself, as far as we started, is when it was delayed. And it was delayed. It was supposed to be on at the end of March. And it got delayed from a process of a mix-up with some misunderstanding or whatever it was. I don't know, to my knowledge. And to my way of thinking, it came out the first week in May, but the whole thing is really moving and really selling for us.
Once the album was released, Mel had some problems getting airplay on the network, but Mel's persistence finally paid off.
Scott Lopez, I called him, and he was on that one night, and I don't think he misunderstood. We didn't get right connections. I called the network. You know, Scott Lopez is related to this realtor process. Wait, no, Leroy Realtor, and he didn't get me right on this process when I put this process of requesting on this what it was. So I called him later of the next morning on this one disc jockey, but I don't know him that well because I wasn't up to the network. Anyway, I says the album is really moving real good.
Mel also turned to probably his strongest contact in the broadcast industry for help.
Norman Margraf on WYLO has a very process of a good promoter, and he knows darn well too. I told him the album's moving real process of promoting and really proceeding and really going.
And of course, once all the technicalities were ironed out, record sales began to mushroom.
To my knowledge, I sold 7 in here. I sold 12 down by Jeff last Sunday again. And, no, 12, I should take time. I'm 25. And sold here at Veterans Park the other week before that. I sold 25. 12 here and 25 at Jeff's. I'll put that back. What am I thinking of? 25 at Jeff's, Menard, and at the Adler Inn, 4751002, and sold 12 here at Veterans Park. And at the Racine County line at the interstate, I sold one Sunday afternoon before I started selling here or by Jeff's. I sold 10 albums right down the interstate line here at this B's bars in there between the interstate and Racine County line in Franklin.
With things heading in the right direction and everything seeming to be taking care of itself, will Mel Brown be releasing a second album?
It could be. Depends on, I wouldn't give you no really a process of satisfaction for definitely when the time is, but I'm not determined right now as what there's going to be doing as the near future. But it could be I should say right now, but it could be a little could be later.
Well, what would you call a new album if you have another album?
Well, that I wouldn't know exactly. I did think this out, and to my knowledge, I'm just confused on the title, on the process of the album itself, as what we did on this album right now, as Salute to Yankovic.
With another album still a long way off, Mel plans on continuing his album promotion by putting together a concert tour for the summer of '84.
I like to go a lot of these festivals if I can, with Jeff Easy, and if he's capable of traveling with these festivals, if it is. They're that's who they are, is what I've been working with.
The Polka Country Music Network will return in a moment. If and when Mel releases a second album, we might see him doing more than just producing and singing.
Oh yeah, drums, yeah. I maybe the chording right now. I play chording, but I don't play that much of this numbers. I can only play certain numbers, and maybe about 3. That's why I didn't process it. Tried to do this to promote myself as a musician and go and put on the album itself. Because I'm not that quite good as these guys are. I'm not no amateur musician yet. Okay.
Mel says he feels the most comfortable when he's singing and playing the drums.
It's rhythm is nothing for me, and the singing the same thing I can do. Slovenia translation, I pick it off of these albums. Or not these albums, I should say, on these tapes that I got from Frank Yankovic, what they call the national version of the Slovenian translation, like Lig Tidon Shladi, Hoktam Tonkai Lidon, Shalik Lana Moshli, Hosli Lidon, Holy Lali Lilo. See, as far as I only know anyway, but I can learn what I learn, but I'm not, let's put it that way, I'm not as capable as doing like Frank Yankovic.
So, in summing it all up, Mel Brown is pleased as punch with his debut album, Mel Brown Presents a Salute to Frank Yankovic. And if this is any indication, we can expect one smash hit after another from this aspiring and dynamic entertainer.
As I'm talking to you right now. What is your first name?
Rick.
Rick. And nice meeting you. And Rick, I'll tell you, the thing to my knowledge, there is a very exceptionally a lot of real process of good people out in my areas as where I've been around. And I didn't know, and I'll tell you right now and put this all on that radio now, that I didn't believe there was people that were really going to buy from me as Mel Brown to Salute to Frank Yankovic. You get it? Shake it up. Anyway, it's really, like I say, the people are really buying the company where I sold.
You've been listening to another special program from the Polka Country Music Network via satellite. On behalf of engineer Bugs Okonski, program consultant Walter Windshield, producer Wiley Willie West, and show coordinator Victor Stiletto, this is Rick Undrum for the Polka Country Music Network. Any unauthorized reproduction or rebroadcast without express written consent is prohibited. Violators will be prostituted under Murphy's Law. Anyone punished for such an offense will be forced to listen to the entire show played backwards at high audio decibels in a non-padded room.
Boy, you take the listening blonde, boy, you take the listening blonde, boy, you take the schlim madame of the day, op de schreek moet afslaan. Ze beetje listening blonde, boy, you take the listening blonde, boy, you take the listening blonde, some bouton chocolate lady. Some to take lots and the phone, these sick baton, but shake what I got over the Jim Big Latella, some from Basella phone. Hey, but they moon shata yakha. So me, she sit on my lap and smoke my cigar, smoke my cigar, smoke my cigar. She dip a boom, but it's a bomb, but it's a day. She's on the day. jammer today. Hey, 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 hey. Hail, hail, the wife's in jail. So what the hell do we care? What the hell do we care? Hail, hail, the wife's in jail. So what the hell do we care now? Hallelujah, Lilo. Hallelujah.